I have had the pleasure of working with thousands of brands in the past, big, small, and they all have one common question. How can they get on more shelves? So I reached out to an amazing person in my network who is going to be able to give us some guidance around this very topic. I am so excited that today we are joined by Ivo Petroff. He is a visionary category manager at Walmart with what I love is an entrepreneurial spirit. He is the guy who is shaking things up. He's focusing his efforts on cultivating a new, evolving culture and mindset on how they partner with brands. And it doesn't matter if you're a big brand or a small brand. So we're going to dive into his unique approach. We're going to learn some key insights, and not only on how to capture an audience, but also how to capture the attention of retail partners and hopefully land a coveted spot on shelf. So trust me, this is an episode you are not going to want to miss. Welcome to our leadership series, Ivo.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me. Incredible introduction. Made me blush a little bit, but let's move on to the topic. Certainly great intro. Spot on. One important thing to mention is I have a perspective. I have a point of view. This is not necessarily something universal, not necessarily something that's applicable for everybody everywhere. And that's probably one of the beauties of the environment that we live in, is that it's so diverse, full of opportunities where you can invent your own wisdom and your own truth for your own brand. But one thing in common, just to summarize also my intro, is really sticking to your values. Your values is what's going to bring you ahead, stand out, and make you differentiate from the sea of opportunities out there. So thanks for having me. Extremely exciting opportunity, and I'm more than happy to have this conversation and hopefully deliver some value to your valuable audience.
There is no doubt. So you've already gone to my first question, but I'm going to back up for a sec because I want people to know a little bit about your background, because I think that's incredibly important, because we're all looking to learn from credible and trusted partners. So give me 1 second to talk about your background. So Ivo here has spent over 20 years in grocery retail. He started in Europe with leading grocery retailers, including Schwartz Group, Kaufland, Lidl, and he was involved in private label sourcing and development in Central and Southeastern Europe. In 2012, he became part of the starting team at Target in Canada, and he helped launch the fresh and temperature-controlled category. In 2015, he joined German discounter Lidl as they were entering the US market. And a year later, he started with Walmart, where he has been ever since, managing and developing the dry grocery business and leveraging the amazing impact that Walmart can have in transforming the retail industry. So I think that was real, like your background is unbelievable. So I feel like everything that you're going to say, the brands that we work with are going to want to hear. And I got to tell you, Ivo, the fact that when I first met you, your entrepreneurial spirit literally jumped out at me. I was like, oh my God, I just want to talk to this guy and keep talking to him. So I truly love that. And I think you're going to bring a ton of value to the conversation.
Thank you.
So, okay, let's go to mission and purpose. So I know those are incredibly important to you, especially when you're evaluating a brand. So can we talk a little bit about the mindset that you believe a business needs to bring in order to take a product from ideation to development and execution? Because I know this is a really important one for you.
100%. Dealing with a lot of opportunities just forces you into developing an approach that you can survive within the endless bureaucracies and requirements, and at the same time still being able not to lose focus. And this is one of the biggest challenges of the mass grocery and generally packaged industry, is really that a lot of things get mechanic and we are losing really the focus of where we need to be and what our priorities are.
Right.
This is on the retailer side. It's important not to forget that really we're driven by metrics, by monthly, quarterly deliverables, And then you have all of the requirements related to paperwork, and that is huge distraction. This is how a big administrative organization functions. So to be able to keep an eye on really what the focus, what the priorities are, is a big challenge. And this is, everybody should be aware when they approach a large retailer, large or small retailer, or a future client, they need to understand that they're talking to somebody who's talking to many different players like them. And what is the right approach? What is the way to do it? As I indicated at the beginning, I am not saying anything that's universal approach that's relevant for everyone. This is more of a one point of view that is hopefully going to generate some food for thought. And this is exactly the most important thing that makes things stand out for me, for probably many of the category managers, buyers, and decision makers on the buying side. Really, when you see the passion, and the passion is usually when it relates to real mission, the values behind it, because a private label or emerging brand, everybody can start co-packing something somewhere, or could be a manufacturer. For sure, this is great. But the thing is, what is the value that they deliver, and really what is the difference that they want to make? This is the first thing that makes them stand out, even if it's a first presentation or first meeting that they have. The passion about the business, the belief in what you do, make you stand out at the beginning, really. And then again, it's important how it evolves, how you're able to engage your future client so that you are together on a journey to get somewhere. I can dive deeper into this thing. I don't want to be too overwhelming with the first sentence.
And I love that you said that, because I think from a consumer perspective, the mission and values behind a company has become so incredibly important these days, right? People want to know who they're buying from. It doesn't matter that you're a national brand or you're a private label brand. They want to know about you. They want to know your mission. They want to know that you have their best interests at heart. So it's kind of a 360 approach. So having said that, how do you suggest entrepreneurs balance that, the mission that they want to have and the values they want to stand behind, with practical product aspects like quality, like packaging, like pricing?
This touches on something very important, which is the pure technical side of the business, which is as relevant as the rest of the considerations are. Meaning, do you have as a brand reliable quality manufacturing base, whether it's owned, because the models are various. Again, that's not the point to dive into this, but do you have a reliable quality manufacturing base and supply chain that can deliver the credibility of whether it's your own brand or it's something that you're just developing? This is essential, because even if I believe in you as a future customer, and you fail me with the first delivery or after the first 6 months, even if you really believe in it, you're done. That means really art and science should go hand in hand. And in this case, science is just a pragmatic view over the business. Secure your fundamentals. If you are co-packing a product somewhere, if you are manufacturing a product, don't go and engage in commitments that you cannot deliver to, because then you lose credibility. And this is the most unfortunate part. Go in small steps, go in steps that you are sure that you can deliver, as opposed to go big and then fail. We have seen even huge corporations that went as big as they could, and then it was just a balloon effect. We don't want that, because again, if the idea is to be around for a long time, then you need to approach the business this way as well. So really securing the base is probably one of the more practical recommendations that I would have.
So that completely makes sense, because you don't want to just pick a manufacturer and not be assured of the kind of quality that's going to be coming out there, because sometimes people will go with someone because they're cheaper, but because they're cheaper, they might be producing a subpar product, which the retailer is going to be able to tell very quickly, because the consumers aren't going to be buying it, or they're going to be complaining about it. So let's explore next steps, and let's talk Walmart specifically a little bit. Walmart stands out for its no listing fees policy. Having said that, can you break down for me and for the audience what other areas should a brand anticipate investing in? You know, what are Walmart's expectations in terms of their vendors and marketing their products?
First, let me limit my answer. I don't want to speak on a holistically across the board,
Sure.
different categories, different strategies, different management styles.
Yeah.
I want to share with you one approach and one view over this extremely important topic. What is the priority? What is the value? What matters the most? Making a difference, meaning especially if you are a startup, a new brand or emerging brand or a smaller player, you need to make a difference to create, to secure your place, your differentiation, your spot. So for example, when I talk to various projects, I call them projects because there are sometimes initiatives, there's sometimes concepts, sometimes there are ready products already, sometimes they're already selling. Couple of considerations. Number one is the willingness to collaborate. And this is a major difference between well-established, in many instances, borderline complacent, big, huge players on the market. They're not necessarily that flexible and that willing to collaborate to the extent that a new, smaller, or more flexible player would be willing to do so in order to deliver.
They're missing the agility of a startup, right?
Exactly. Many reasons. That's not meant in a bad way. Sometimes a big organization is not capable to do that. You have one of the big CPG behemoths. They just cannot handle this type of approach to business. And exactly here is the enormous opportunity of more humble, more flexible, more individually owned businesses where decisions are made pretty fast, pretty quickly, where understanding of the entire supply chain is much better, when transparency is also much better and more doable than a big corporate shareholder-owned enterprise where just even compliance, you name it, like a long list of considerations. This is the advantage. This is the competitive advantage. So that if I develop a product or if I work with a small player who wants to establish their product, they open the gates. Or if they don't, then not necessarily I'm going to get on board with them. But once we establish this initial trust, we can drive a boat together and bring it to the next level. Again, important thing is trust, because this is something that is always an opportunity on the market, and it's not easy to get there. This relates to the...
That's my favorite statement, because trust is behind everything and anything that we do, right? We're always saying how trust is the most valuable currency in the marketplace today. So I love that you're
100%.
highlighting that.
And just to the previous point of quality and production, this is also a milestone into the building of this trust, so that you don't go across the board. If you still have a small business with limited capacities, don't go across the board. Be selective, call it hygienic in your approach, who you want to work with, and do everything you can to establish this trust and to deliver to your commitments. This is a very, very solid start. And by the way, quite a lot of small companies at the beginning, this is the way they approached from back in time. Even recently, Kind Snacks was one of the examples. This is how they started at the very beginning. And funny enough, that is just a fun fact. When they were approaching the Canadian market, they contacted me in my capacity back then, and I was skeptical. Just to wake up a couple of years later and to realize what a mistake I made. So anyways,
we all make them, right? We all make them, but what an amazing success story. I just had the opportunity to meet some of their team and, more importantly, sample some of their new chocolate nut clusters, which were magical. They are just an inspiration, right? An inspiration, what they were able to accomplish. Yeah. So, okay. So it sounds to me like a brand that is going to work with a large retailer, even if there isn't listing fees, is going to need to establish trust. And they need to establish trust with you. But in order to establish trust with you, I'm thinking they need to establish some sort of trust with the consumer first. So switching gears, I guess, from a consumer perspective, we know consumers today are often looking for validations and reviews before they're actually making a purchase. So let's talk about the value of endorsements. So obviously, like I would love to know, how do peer-based endorsements like ours, like parent-tested, parent-approved, and our seal of approval impact your decision-making process? Does it have an impact? Does it help fast track the trust building process that you are looking for?
Definitely. And I would not separate one from the other.
Right.
Because everything is, it's like the chicken or the egg. Because if there is not a big retail or just an exposure to market, regardless what else is being done, it just stays a static idea, and if it doesn't get in the hands of the actual final customers.
Right.
On the other hand, to get in the hands of the customer, you need to have the presence, you need to have the validation and the recognition, the visibility, the quality and the credentials, whatever you stand for, in a way that it's visible, that it's credible, and justifies your statement.
Right.
Your statement could be value statement, could be brand statement, could be a specific niche on the market, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's why I would approach this thing a little bit more holistically, because I cannot work on my validation of the product and my social media and public space placement if I don't get this product in the hands of a larger group of customers, consumers, or potential future customers, and vice versa. If I get it in the hands of the customers and I purely commoditize the product, I'm risking just to get lost and lose a lot of the value and the idea that I'm trying to bring to the market. So this all goes hand in hand, and this is probably part of the general strategy of whoever is interested to start doing some business in this space, really to approach it this way, to know technically who is my partner on production side, or am I producing? If I do so, then what I'm putting into this thing, then what is the statement I do? Who's going to be there on board to help me stand out and validate and make credible placement on the market? And then who is my client or group of clients, retail clients, that I am aiming to go and convince them that that makes sense for the customer. And this all is an entire strategy that, when done properly, makes already a good position, a good starting position for starting the journey. No guarantee for success, but again, once you start pragmatically doing step by step and everything right and honestly right, then sooner or later, in most of the instances, my experiences, results would be interesting.
So, okay, you and I have not talked in the past about what Parent Tested, Parent Approved does and how it does it, rather. I know you know who we are, but how we do things. So it's interesting. Everything that you just said is basically, you know, when a brand comes to us, we want to help empower them with the tools they need to go to a retailer. So we have a community of, you know, over 250,000 consumers across North America. So we are picking their target demo. We're taking a small sampling. We're putting the product into the hands of those consumers. We're giving them evaluation so they can complete a detailed report and get market research. It's like this, it's a focus group essentially with e-reviews. And so when they're going to a retailer, they are now empowered to say, hey, first of all, my product was tested by real consumers. Second of all, I have this organization, I have 250,000 consumers that are now backing my product. I have a certification saying that my product is trusted and that consumers would recommend it. So it sounds like we're kind of doing exactly what it is that you believe could be helpful if they're lucky enough to land an opportunity with a retailer. Fair to say?
Fair to say, and I will be completely honest here, is to draw the line that many players, many new providers, manufacturers, they try to implement this type of validation, but it's important here that if the validation is the only way that you are approaching the market, it just hangs right in the air. That's why everything should be connected, meaning you have to deliver the quality, which obviously unlikely to be there if they should be qualifying to get certain validation, whether it's your area of a parent tested, whether it's any kind of other validations. You need to really be there, and not just because in full transparency, this is the market reality. There are also different kinds that not necessarily always are actual guarantee for what they stand for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And many other things. That's why only relying, okay, I go buy the stamp and then I'm entitled. Nobody is entitled to anything.
No.
And that's why you're absolutely right. But as I said, this is all a universe of connected, an ecosystem of connected considerations that all together, built in the right synergistic and logical way, can deliver to something that really can be a standout product or service or whatever it is that really can create this value. So the legitimate statement is 100% relevant, and it exists in pretty much every area. This is even the certified quality standards, for example. That's the same line of validation, a formally recognized validation for sure. But if you come up with this quality statement to me and then almost claim that we owe you or anybody owes you because of that, that's a wrong approach. The thing is, be humble, be realistic, deliver on all of those components, because this, for example, what comes to me very often is this type of legitimacy statement is kind of a justification for questionable price. Well, I understand that usually this added that there is certain added value, but be humble and be honest, because again, we live in an era where there is full transparency, there is full empowerment through technology. This is no longer back in time like 20 years ago where you own a marketing budget and pretty much you own everything. Now, every one of us could be a marketing factor on social media, on likes, on comments, there are brands that started existing because of this system out there. So that's why this approach has to be embraced in a very realistic way, in a very pragmatic way. It definitely, but just relying on this value alone, it also is discrediting this. Not enough. That's my point. It needs to be part of a whole strategy that really aims. Let's say my core statement is aimed at families, at their kids, at safety. In your case, for example, obviously this is part of this train of thoughts that really delivers to this final product. But do all the things right. Do your due diligence, do your competitiveness, do your efficiencies. Me as a potential buyer, I'm not paying for your inefficient ways of running the business. I'm paying for where it delivers the value, but otherwise I'm betraying my customer. So this is the really realistic self-conversation every operator should ask themselves before they even pick up the phone to call potential future client, and do this thing with themselves. And then they have the confidence that can be enhanced and can be made more interesting, more appealing through various tools, including what you mentioned. So that's my feedback. And definitely, again, this is an endless topic because it could be various avenues to be explored.
I know. I mean, I think the word trust, everything comes back to the word trust, right? So you can go out there and we have a ton of competitors that start up every day where you can pay for an award. And there's a lot of companies who believe, okay, I'm going to plaster 20 awards on my website and that is going to mean something. But from a consumer perspective, consumers need to educate themselves as well, right? Retailers need to be educated on what certifications actually matter, which ones have legitimacy behind them, and consumers need to do the same. And then, my frustration sometimes lies, and you just addressed this, in the fact that a brand will earn our certification, but then do nothing with it. And then they're like, well, where was my ROI? And I'm like, well, where was that certification leveraged? And how was the focus group leveraged? How was the market research we gave you? Like, did you go to the retailer and present all this? Oh, and then I sit there going, okay, this was like an exercise in futility. Let's start over. Let me tell you how you can leverage all these things to actually be effective in selling your product. So to your point, it's not enough to just be able to say, okay, I have this certification and hope for the best. So you need that full package. So when we talk about things like full package, social proof has become, a topic that is very popular. And social proof, for those people who are listening who are not familiar with it, is really a collection of ways for consumers to figure out if a product really stands up to value, quality, things like that. And it's made up of e-reviews and user-generated content. So from a retailer perspective, when a new brand comes to you, and maybe that brand is primarily selling on Instagram right now, do you as a retailer look at things like social proof? Are you going and looking at their e-reviews? How many stars, video testimonials, user-generated content? Is that important to you when considering, or are you just far too busy to be able to do that with every product?
Well, that granular approach, unfortunately, unlikely anybody from the industry will have the time to do. But what I'm trying to encourage is really to create this wave, because then I will be benefiting as well. And this is, for example, the role of those influencers, or, for example, celebrity chefs. Just a call I was on literally before our meeting. Celebrity chef coming up with a new. So this is the liberalization of the marketplace out there.
Right.
So definitely it matters a lot. The willingness to create together, or me to leverage something that already exists out there.
Right.
This space where large retail and large corporations are very good through the standard marketing channels. They do big marketing money, advertising agencies, the traditional methods of now obviously internet as well, but the media printed, etc. But at the same time, this direct access and leveraging followers and creating the buzz out there is something that every large organization would like to identify more and more. Many of the big CPGs are doing that by acquiring smaller companies that have this thing, and they just naturally cannot generate it in their existing capacity, or grabbing influencers, working with different groups, etc. This is the way. So if you naturally have it, then this is something that definitely I would like to identify more, because my big corporate banner would become cooler and more accessible to larger groups. And that's the big challenge, because many of those corporate behemoths, they stay in their corporate suits, but at the same time, they miss this flexibility and dynamics, and everybody's trying to get a little bit of it through different avenues. But if I can do this alone with my selection of assortments and partners, this is already a win-win, because I can deliver on the big industry side for them, but they can deliver on the coolness, access, engagement side. So that's a lovely synergy that I'm trying, for example, in my daily work to kind of get more of it, because this creates this color of the business and a lot of excitement to it as well.
So I have to say, you are one of the most excited, like your spirit is amazing based on the role that you are in. Like, you are in a role that somebody could come into and go, okay, I'm choosing products, I'm deciding what's going to be on my shelf. But you come into this role going, I am choosing products, I am helping build brands. Like, you are literally empowering startups, not only startups, but also startups, to become something bigger than they ever imagined possible. That's the way I interpret what you're doing. And I think it's, I hope that there are more people like you coming into these roles, because that's really, a small brand does not feel like that they stand a chance to get in with a retailer like Walmart. But you're making it feel like, I feel like you're the Tony Robbins of buyers, because you're making it feel like there's actually a chance. So I have another question for you that actually came up by one of my clients. And their question was around, they have a bit of a higher priced item. And they were wondering, how does Walmart balance the goal of helping customers save money while ensuring their products are high quality? Because, they were wondering, is Walmart going to stock a product that is a slightly higher priced item?
Very good question, because the easiest thing is really increasing price, and you have the answers to every concern along the entire supply chain and everything. So technically, but the question is the customer going to buy it? Is the customer going to pay the higher price and still being happy about the purchase they made? So big topic. Let me, I have a good example. In the packaged, I don't want to use names, just in the packaged food industry in Canada, had a manufacturer that came up with a packaged food product that was much better quality, and this was their statement: we make better quality product, that's why we cannot go on your opening price point play. I was in a discounter oriented mentality first, a little bit skeptical. Okay, everybody says that. Everybody wants to charge more and then claiming anything. Even if you really have the quality, would the customer get it? Because you're still a very small player, you know, with all of these concerns. So we started very slow, very small, with my half conviction, half not so much. Then I started learning that this small, ambitious guy went in the US, and one of the hype, cool brands, back to the previous thing, how relevant is this? How one of the brands that's making big splash on the specifically California market, actually they produce them. And it was an eye-opener for me. Wait a minute, like if this is making such a big splash in the US under a concept that actually gets produced by the same guy, there must be something.
Right.
Later on, a year later, I'm going to a fancy food retailer in the US, and then again, their top product is also produced by them. Okay, already to me, this was the moment of truth. Right. So me, I was a representative of average, mediocre retail approach. And I understand, I see, okay, let's give you a little start. But at the same time, when I saw these things happening, so this is leveraging their work, what they do, they continue hustling around, they continue pushing their agenda. Then at some point, I realized that I'm behind the processes out there. Then really, like literally, probably a year later, I really embraced this idea, this project, and this entire partnership, because I said, okay, that enough flashing lights here to tell me there is a huge opportunity.
Okay, Ivo, let's do it, right? Yeah,
that's
all
it.
The signs are coming at you, and you have to pay attention to them.
But you see, this is a dynamic, mutual process of them kind of indicating and sharing with me being willing to learn and understand, and at the same time, then obviously at the point when I get really convinced and believer into this thing, then together with a willing and capable partner, magics can happen.
Right.
So it's not a one sentence answer. I just wanted to use this example. Right. Even you said such a great things, but I am also like a corporate citizen that needs to live in a corporate world, just like all of my peers. And of course, different level of openness and excitement from the simple things we do. But at the same time, there are basics. But you see how things evolve. So this is an example of any buying person or client could go through this thing, but you see how it naturally evolved. Yeah. This is including overall placement, overall approach, and these separate other businesses are not huge, but they're indicators. They're huge indicators. There is something going on. And then to your point, entrepreneurial beginning, that gives life to what we do. Otherwise, we become bureaucrats. That would be basically gone with the development of artificial intelligence, you know, because
oh, that's a whole other podcast, Ivo, a whole other podcast we can get into.
Because I was Sharon, I was confronted recently. Okay, buyers, you will be gone in a couple of years because this can be done by artificial. For sure, if you're an average buying person that is just a bureaucrat, you are already gone because you don't deliver any value to your organization. If you consider yourself as an entrepreneur within a corporate framework, then unlikely any artificial intelligence can replace you. At least not.
No, you have to, like what we tell brands we do for them is we help them stand out from their competition. So I feel like as in your role, AI can't replace you because you stand out from your competition, right? You bring something really unique to the table. So I want to know from you, what is your one piece of parting advice for emerging brands that are looking to get into retailers like Walmart? What's that big picture piece of advice that they can take away from this?
What a difficult question. It's tell your life in one sentence.
One sentence. That's it. Okay, I'm going to give you like 3 or 4 sentences. No problem.
Yeah, sure. I think we're going to where we started. Really believe in what you do.
Right.
And stay with both feet on the ground. Because I've seen people on the ground with zero imagination and belief, and then people with enormous flight of thought, but just in the air.
Right.
Both cannot deliver in the real retail world. You need to dream big, but be with both feet on the ground. And maybe it's a kind of a summary to create kind of a hopeful starting point of this, what can make a difference? Because this coincides your vision, your belief. This coincides the build of trust, because you can imagine, but you are being realistic to it, so that you gain the trust because you believe in the real execution and delivery.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's be real, be open, be flexible, and be motivated and inspired by what you do. Sooner or later,
I love that.
There will be results.
I love that. Be real, be open, be inspired. And I think, you know, for entrepreneurs and startups, when I'm talking to them, I'm always saying, don't go into the business unless it is something that you truly believe in, because it is such a grind. It is such a hustle. Going from ideation to production is one part of the hustle. But then the real hustle starts, trying to get in with the retailers, trying to build that brand awareness. And if you don't passionately believe in what you're doing, you will not be able to ride that roller coaster of emotion that comes with running a business. So I love that you summarize that as the big takeaway, because I just feel like we're so aligned on this, and I think it's just great value. Okay, I'm going to ask you one last very quick question. What is your favorite part of working at Walmart?
The big muscle that allows for entrepreneurial approach. That's the awesome combination. That's something, because I've been with smaller players and larger, like the big muscle that can make things happen.
Yeah.
And still not being completely locked in the boring, drying corporate, allowing for some birds to fly, which is the huge thing. And this is also my idea. Can this approach to business generate waves and then attract and get more people buy into this? Because nowadays this is increasingly delivering, because this is the diversification of environment. Things are changing so dramatically that staying relevant is not just putting another different product on shelf. It's approaching the business differently. So having at least the room to be able to apply part of this in a large corporate world is probably the most exciting part, because not all of the also very successful other organizations are well prepared or able to handle this type of existence. Because I'm a firm believer that this can gain traction once it gets visibility and support. This approach and mindset is something that bears tremendous value for tomorrow.
I think you have given us a completely different perspective. I know myself, a completely different perspective on Walmart, because I feel like they have empowered you to almost run your own startup within Walmart and help change the way decisions are made, the way brands are brought on, which impacts the way brands are designing their products and thinking about their mission, and also thinking about what's possible. So I feel like you have opened up a world to them. And I am so excited that you joined us today, and that I'm going to be able to share this valuable content with all of the brands out there who are dying to know how to get on shelves. So Ivo, thank you for your time. I am so grateful to you. It has been a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thank you, Sharon. Much appreciated. Pleasure for me as well. And looking forward to staying in touch.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everyone. So stay tuned. We're going to share some information below, some transcripts, and stay tuned for our next episode in the leadership series. Thank you, Ivo Petroff.